Hi there, I'm Scott Hamilton, Rockfile, back with another podcast review for your ears. This time, as much as I can, a spoiler-free review of the new Amazon series, UTOPIA. I don't know why I didn't jump on this immediately. I am a huge John Cusack fan. Well, of his 80s and 90s stuff. Some of that direct-to-video stuff he's done and the political stuff he's done I haven't really paid much attention to, but I've always been a fan. I really identified with him on things like Say Anything and Better Off Dead. He was one of my favorite actors of that era. And that should have pulled me into the show, but I've had other things going on, and I don't watch a whole lot of TV. But Rainn Wilson is in it, Sasha Lane is in it, a few other characters you've seen in some movies and other TV shows, but no other big names are in this drama, science fiction, black comedy series that I figured was based on a comic book, and it's not. It's based on a BBC TV series from 2013 and 2014. And Gillian Flynn has been attached to this thing since then. HBO was going to do an American version right after the British version ended, and David Fincher was attached to direct, and it all broke down under budget concerns and stuff, and they couldn't get everybody they wanted. There were some pretty big-name actors and other people tied to this at certain points. But eventually, Amazon picked up the rights a couple years ago, and Gillian Flynn came along with it. She created the show. She's the showrunner, wrote the episodes based on Dennis Kelly and the team that wrote the original UTOPIA from the BBC. And obviously, changes made to make it Americanized and all that. I haven't seen the BBC show yet, but I would be interested to see it now, although... Well, I can't get into spoilers, but the conspiracy theories and the things that happen in the show are very today. And obviously this was filmed before the whole COVID thing happened. But it's very much a product today. I'd like to also mention the music, which is really good, by Jeff Russo. Jeff Russo is a rock musician who started making music for movies and TV shows and is doing a fabulous job, actually. You just wouldn't think the guy from Tonic, But anyway... The show pulled me in the first episode because I liked that there was comic conventions involved, cosplay, all that nerd stuff that I kind of like. And then by the end of it, it turned very Tarantino and was incredibly violent at the end of the first episode. And I was like, okay, you have my attention. And as I watched each episode, it became the overarching story, conspiracies, mysteries, and mythology that kept me coming back for each subsequent episode all the way up through the end of episode 8. This is a show that you really want to binge. I would recommend not. I'm not saying it's as deep as something like Westworld or Watchmen that you're going to need to take a week and digest, but I watched a couple episodes back to back and felt that I would have gotten more out of it and not missed as much had I just watched a single episode and then digested it for a little while. It's not typical TV. Starts like a typical TV show and... gets a little crazy by the end. Like I said, I'm going to keep it spoiler-free. But basically, the gist of the story is there's a popular comic book series, and there's conventions and stuff around it. And there are a small group of people who think there are things in the comic books that relate to something that's actually going on in the real world. There are references to virus outbreaks that happened around the world in the past century and things like that within the comic book, if you look for the little hints and clues. And we start with a small group of people, 5 people, who are going to get together and meet in real life for the first time, but they've been friends for years online, and they've talked about this comic book. This is all in the first 5 minutes, so I'm not giving a whole lot away. And so that's the setup for this mystery and how they all meet. And it turns out there's a new series based on something that they're all into. And this lost, never before seen issue is found. And there's a chase with different people after this issue and things like that. And so you get into some of the typical tropes that you always get into when it's young people versus dark government agencies and conspiracies and things like that. But this show turns everything on its head, and you have somebody like Gillian Flynn, who she was a novelist first, wrote things like Gone Girl, and so she's very much equipped to, take a biting look at society with some of this stuff. It looks great. They filmed it in super widescreen, 2.35 to 1. So it's got big letterbox bars. It looks like a movie. Everything is framed like a movie. It's in 4K on Prime. It looks and sounds like a film. They did a great job in making this elevated from your typical TV series. So I got to call out, all the actors do a great job. I will tell you in the beginning, don't get attached to too many people in the first episode, because you don't know who's going to survive from episode to episode. I also like that. It's one of the things that brought me back to things like The Boys, because an episode could surprise you. And it doesn't feel like they just randomly kill somebody off or randomly blow something up or whatever. It all has meaning. It all ties to what's going on in the end. And of course, in the last episode, we're getting down to the final, our hero's going to save the day, and then everything kind of gets flipped on its head again, which is a mark of a good mystery sci-fi. Sci-fi is used to describe the show because science fiction is not only spaceships. Science fiction is science fiction, as in fictional things that science could actually make happen. So Andromeda Strain, although it starts with a space probe coming back and bringing a virus, that's really about a virus, but it's science fiction because we've never found a virus like that. But it was technology they used to explain the story and explore the characters and things like that. So the hint of science fiction in this is that they're doing things with viruses or conspiracies that maybe we can't do right this second, but in the near future we'll be able to, that kind of thing. As a TV show goes, I think it's very worthy. I will give a warning to my listeners who are not used to hard rated R things. You don't see it coming and you don't expect it, but there's some pretty serious violence. Definitely rated M for TV, rated R for a movie violence in this show. I honestly, the reason I didn't jump into it the day it debuted is because I felt that Amazon was trying to make a Stranger Things, and I felt it was going to be targeted at a much younger audience, and it is definitely not. There are some young people in the show, but they're early 20s on up. So it's not for kids, and by the subject matter, it's definitely not for kids. It's pretty rated R. Does end on a cliffhanger. I hope they make a second season. The British show had a second season and they never made a third. I don't know how closely this relates to the adaptation of the original show. Like I said, I'm going to try and find it and see if it's worthy of watching. It got good reviews. It won a bunch of awards. And this Utopia is getting great reviews as well. If you like the actors that are in it and you're in for a R-rated, more adult take on some of these conspiracy mystery shows where the intrepid team of good guys are going to try and solve the mystery and save the world kind of thing. This is definitely done a little bit different and was highly entertaining. If there was anything I didn't like about it, I thought a couple of times it may have gotten bogged down a little bit too much in the relationship stuff, but that's the guy in me just wanting to get to more of the action, you know what I mean? Sorry about that noise there. Mickey was crawling into my lap. We've got thunderstorms going on. But anyway, I would recommend Utopia if you're in the mood for an R-rated TV series that has a lot of mystery, a lot of conspiracy, and keeps you guessing all the way to the end. It's a compelling story. It's certainly a reflection of modern times and what could possibly happen. I don't know that a quote-unquote mad scientist could do something like is eventually you learn about in the series, but, it would be interesting to compare this and get some takes from some real virologists and scientists and stuff, which will come out after the series has been out for a little while, I'm sure. So if you want to check it out and you're already an Amazon Prime member, do it. It's worth it. If you're not a Prime member, would this bring you to the service? Well, they do have some great shows. Man in the High Castle. They've got a lot of great movies as well. I think it's a pretty good service. My top two are Netflix and Amazon, and I'm flirting around with Disney Plus and some of the others, but I still go back to Netflix and Amazon more than any of the other streaming services at this point, and use Vudu for movies on occasion, or movies anywhere. Anyway, getting off topic, Utopia, this new series that debuted at the end of September on Prime, is available for you to watch. If you haven't watched it in the last 3 weeks, I would say go watch it now before pop culture gets farther into it. One of my friends posted a line from the show like the first week it was out, and I thought he was talking about something serious and answered the question, and then it turns out I watched the show and I'm like, wow, I probably seemed pretty dumb there, but Not everybody had watched the show yet, right? Check it out, Utopia. It's available on Amazon Prime, and there is a 2013 British TV show as well. I'm Scott Hamilton. I'm Rockfile. All my links are below. I have a Patreon page. Interviewed some pretty big rock stars lately. If you want to check that out, those are in my podcast. They're also at rockfileradio.com under interviews. Like I said, all the links are on my page at therockfile.com. Thank you so much for listening.